Happy game day, Seattle hockey fans. Let's talk about some roster changes that we're expecting in today's game. And Emerald City Hockey dropped a little nugget about Berkeley Catton. That's his name. About Berkeley Catton that we should keep in mind heading into the weekend. All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Seattle hockey fans. Happy game day. That's right. The Seattle Kraken continue their road trip in Ottawa tonight. We'll talk about what the Kraken need to do, our 3 keys to the game, and we'll start with talking about some roster changes that we heard reported from Morning Skate. If you are joining us for the first time, hello, greetings and salutations. My name is Erica Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken. Been here since the very beginning. I'm an accredited media member for Milano Cortina. So the German gentleman who we'll talk about in just a bit, we know he will be playing for Team Germany, but who else former and present from the Seattle Kraken will be in Italy? We'll talk about that as the season progresses. But again, today's episode, we're going to talk about roster changes, know the enemy, some things about Ottawa we need to know, and then 3 keys to the game. Before we do all of that, today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Hey, Striatic, let's go. Kraken is right that this is a live episode. I want to do more lives throughout the season, especially when I can enjoy East Coast games and not have to be up too late. I'm technically right now in Central Time, but thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you drop in your comments. There was a YouTube comment either yesterday or the day before regarding Shane Wright and Chandler Stevenson that we're going to get into. But according to the morning skate availability, it sounds like there will be at least 2 changes to the Seattle Kraken roster. Let's hear what Lane Lambert had to say about the centerman position, but then also the alternate captain, Jaden Schwartz, asked about who we will see in net. And that's how we got an inkling that Philip Grubauer may get his first start of the season. Let's go to Morning Skate. This is a cut from Morning Skate availability for the Seattle Kraken.
Oh, Coach, it looked like there was a little bit of a swap to some of the line combinations. What are you kind of hoping to see with swapping Stevie and Shane there?
They're really, I mean, if you look at it, we're looking to see if we can get a little bit more out of a couple of guys, but certainly, really there was only just a little flip, and we'll see where we go from.
This being Gruby's first game of the regular season, what's your message to the guys to support him coming in tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we want to play good whoever's in net, whether it's Murr or Gruby or, Joe. We want to continue to play hard in front of them, make sure we're tying up sticks, giving them the clear shots as much as we can. Making sure they can see the puck and make sure we're boxing out and there's not guys around the net. So, we'll be battling for Gruby or Murjo. Like I said, doesn't matter who. They're all really good goalies. They're going to give us a chance to win. We just got to make sure we're doing our job.
Well, I thought, for the most part, we did a pretty good job. We just had some breakdowns, and it wasn't necessarily, in front of our goaltender, so to speak. It was, away from our goaltender a little bit where we had some breakdowns in Montreal. But we're going to have to battle at the net front, keep them away from our goaltender, and they're a team that goes to the net. So I expect it to be a highly competitive area around both our paint and their paint.
You scored at the net front, obviously, as you always do the other game. But how do you feel like that's been unfolding on a team level as far as getting to the net more compared to previous years?
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job. We're executing with the puck pretty well in the offensive zone. And you're doing a good job of getting pucks through, and you've seen even guys who aren't getting sticks or creating traffic and making the goalie look one way. I think on Riggs' goal we had a couple guys in front of the net. Goalie couldn't see much, so we need to continue to do that. Continue to have bodies there, and that's how you're going to score. If you're going to, the odd time you might have a wrist shot without traffic that it's going to go in, but these goalies are so good. You need guys around there.
So we'll have more from Schwartzy and Lane Lambert. You heard talk about net front presence, but started with a conversation about a few changes. First, we're hearing that might be some line changes. It seems like it's just really the one with regard to who we will see perhaps on that second and third line. If I had to guess, the switch that's being made is that we will see Stevenson on the second line, and we'll see that means Shane Wright centering that third line. I feel like I've talked about this a little bit with regard to Stevenson being quote unquote the third line centerman. And we'll hear in a little bit about how Lane and Jaden Schwartz talk about Ottawa and some of their strengths. If I had to guess also, is this a permanent move? Is it temporary? I really don't know, but it sounds like faceoffs are going to be critical. It's a top team in the NHL, the top team when it comes to faceoffs. And Stevenson has a lot of flaws that we've talked about. He got better with some of those things last season as the season progressed. One thing that Stevenson is really good at is faceoffs. And we've heard Lane Lambert a few times talk about faceoffs, and especially what happens when you don't win a faceoff, which is something he talked about again earlier today. He is keeping a keen eye on that. And so if I had to guess, there's just a little bit of situational play here to have Stevie be a little higher up when it comes to the lineup as compared to Shane Wright, who's definitely still learning his way. But, I know that a few people have commented about this in the offseason for sure. We've also seen some comments recently on YouTube about Shane Wright in that position. I don't think he's played bad. He certainly hasn't stood out in a positive or negative way for me. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some fluidity here. But again, we heard Dan Bylsma talk about this last season, but I think any of the lineup changes that we saw last year were because of a forced hand with injuries, whereas Lane Lambert, I think, is going to be much more strategic with how he incorporates different things and all of that stuff. Out of place. Hey, I'm glad you caught us live too. I talked about it earlier. I'm going to do better in announcing when we go live. It just felt like a good day to go live. I don't know about where you are, but the sun is shining here. I've got good light coming through the window, and I felt like I wanted to get some thoughts out prior to the game. And Striatic, this kind of goes to what you're saying. You're talking more generally speaking here. I do want to talk about the young guns, and it's a little different than I thought it would be. But Wright getting more ice time, I'm curious. We've only had 3 games. Tonight is game 4 against Ottawa. How will this change impact his ice time? We're definitely going to talk about that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Kraken. I can guarantee you that no matter what happens. But it sounds like from the clip that I just played that we're going to see Stevenson hop into that second position, Wright probably at that third position as far as centerman. Now, it didn't sound to me, and I'm not at morning skate. I am not in Ottawa. I am in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on the other side of the U.S.-Canada border. So I wasn't able to see this myself. The reporting coming from the media scrum, that was Al from the radio broadcast, who mentioned explicitly that this will be Grubauer's first look. And then I believe it was Piper Shaw that asked about the change with Stevenson. So yes, I'm with you. Still closely tracking how the young guns are doing, and hope with the change in wingers, Wright gets more ice time on ice as well. I don't know. See, I got the interpretation that I got is, that it's going to be Wright and Stevie switching there, but we'll see. Stevenson's line got caved on. Expected goal percentage last game, Wright's line did better. I mean, Stevenson, I talked about it on the last episode, but Stevenson had that giveaway. I think there are things, just generally speaking, that the Kraken aren't doing particularly well. The Stevenson line, to be honest, has not stood out to me. specifically, I've been focusing a lot on Stevenson. Marchment hasn't necessarily stood out in the way that I think we want him to with that net front presence. I have been listening to a lot of the games on the radio, so when I watch the games back, it's a little easier to identify those things when you actually are watching the film as opposed to hearing on the radio. I've liked what Winterton has done. The defensive side of the game, we knew he was going to be strong there. So I like that, but I want to see more. Honestly, I want to see more from Stevie Marchment Winterton. I mentioned on the last episode, Tolvey had a really great chance in front of the net, just couldn't get the puck lifted. Probably if you had a perfect pass in that situation, it might have been not so tight in on his body, but those are not things you can always control. But at first I was like, Tolvey, how do you not get something up there? So I think it's going to be interesting. These are the game lines that we saw rolled out for Montreal. So not projected lines for today. This is just from the last episode, because obviously you can see Philip Grubauer, we're expecting him to start. I do wonder if that means Murray is his backup or if Joey Dax is his backup. I was recording something else earlier today, so I haven't seen any reporting other than the video that we have from Seattle Kraken coming out of morning skate and some of the reporters that are there. But just again, this is the lineups. I'm showing you the lineups from the last game, not what we're expecting for today. We are expecting Philip Grubauer to start. We are expecting Stevenson to bump up into that 2C position. Maybe a few other changes. And Lane Lambert also said to expect changes on the fly, so to speak, and changes that we will see happen throughout the course of a game. And, I don't get the sense that Lane's changes are punitive. We saw a lot of what seemed like punitive changes and healthy scratches and stuff like that happening under Dan Bylsma, which I get the sentiment. It's just playing that hardball game. Sorry, I was looking for my cell phone. I think I left it over there. Anyway, playing that hardball game didn't really work out for Dan Bylsma. I'm learning so much more about the Dan Bylsma era because of how people are reacting and responding to Lane Lambert than I feel like I learned all of last season, which is very interesting. And again, something that I kind of want to keep an eye on, break down a little bit. Okay, let's get back to this game day pregame episode of Locked On Kraken. Thanks again for joining us. 4 p.m. Pacific time, puck will drop. Now, I've alluded to this. Again, Piper Shaw asked about this, but faceoffs looking super good. First overall at a 65.2% clip for the Ottawa Senators. We're 24th, 46.8%. Not the end all be all, especially given that we have a better penalty kill, 15th at an 83.3% clip, and we have a better power play at a 22.2% clip compared to 18.8% on the power play for Ottawa. 52.9% on the penalty kill for Ottawa. So we like our odds there. Goals for, even at 3 goals per game. Goals against, we're rocking with 2.33, best for 7th in the league, compared to 5.50 goals per game for the Ottawa Senators. So yeah, there's an opportunity there for sure. The Ottawa Senators are 1-3-0, while your Seattle Kraken are 2-0-1. And so you like those numbers overall, but there's something very specific, again, face-offs, as well as just the keen attention that Ottawa historically has with using their body, being a physical team that probably give them the edge, but they're missing a key piece in Brady Tkachuk. How much will that matter in tonight's game? It's so early in the season. I like that we're getting Ottawa early in the season, because I think it will be a good test, particularly on the side of physicality. But we'll get into that and so much more on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken once again brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We know that the NFL season, the NHL season are in full swing, and FanDuel has an offer that you won't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, pick a bet, Put down $5. And if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the app. Now, when people are going to FanDuel, I always tell them to take a look at, of course, the parlays, the player props, or even you can follow live lines during a game. If you check out online, I haven't checked on the app, I'm sure it's the same, but they're little boxes. So you can see red box, hey, this is not looking like a good bet, at least at the time, right, of the snapshot. And then a green box, that you can see, oh, this is looking like it's a good bet, at least as of now. But whether you're a casual fan or love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, it's an afternoon episode. Seattle hockey fans, thanks as always for making us your first listen of the day. This is probably more of a midday listen or your late night listen. We have a special PWHL Seattle episode that we will drop probably tomorrow, Friday, but Ava Wood joined us again. I think I kept saying her name wrong yesterday. I was so out of it. I apologize. It's been a little tough getting reacclimated now that I'm not changing time zones like every other day or every 3 days. And it hit me hard yesterday. So apologies for anything that wasn't edited completely yesterday. Another reason why I wanted to go live today, because I was like, I can stay sharp for the most part. And if I mess up, I just have fun with it. But either way, I'm so grateful that you are joining us here. It's a game day. It's an exciting game day. Ottawa has been a physical team with us in the past. Ottawa is one of those teams where when I watch or I know we're about to play Ottawa, I get a little bit ramped up. I'm like ready for us to fight Ottawa because I know Ottawa's going to bring the fight to us. We're not a physically domineering team, or at least we haven't been in the past. And when we play a team like Ottawa that's known for that, well, bodies fly. But we've seen early this year that the Seattle Kraken have been able to really get more physical, as the late great Olivia Newton-John once sang about, while also doing her jazzercise. Either way, some of you might not get that reference at all, which I love and also is a little bit frightening. The point is that this is a physical team. They're also very good at the face-off, which I just talked about. And net front presence is a thing that the Kraken want to do regardless of who they play. I think it's going to be critical in a game against the Ottawa Senators. Hey, Striatic. Oh, do you want to know a little bit more about the PWHL training camp roster or camp invites? Don't worry, we've got you covered on a special episode of Locked On Kraken. We are going to have Ava and or Joe and or Angelica join us once a week to talk specifically about PWHL Seattle. We also, of course, still have the women's hockey report, which will be Saturday episodes. So don't worry, we've got you covered, including there is a player that is native to Seattle, Washington, invited to camp. And we talked about that. Ava and I recorded earlier today, and can't wait to drop that for you. It's looking like it'll be first thing tomorrow morning, but don't worry, we've got it for you. Okay, let's get back into what we need to know against this Ottawa team. You probably heard Jeff Baker talking a lot about quote unquote protecting the goaltender. I left some of those clips in there, but really for me, I mean, Lane was like, well, it doesn't matter who our netminder is. We need to be better in front of our goalie. And he wasn't talking like literally in front of the goalie, like in the house area, the low slot. He's talking about just playing better, more discipline, more consistency. I think this is hilarious. So for Jeff Baker, his essential number one is to protect the goalie. His essential number two is to score a freaking goal. That's literally what the title is. Let's not sugarcoat things. The Kraken's record in Ottawa the past 2 seasons is abysmal for the sheer fact that they haven't put a puck in the opposing net. All right, Jeff, that is definitely not sugarcoating it. I told you the stats about this season. So this season bodes well as far as, well, just the Ottawa Senators are giving up a lot of goals. But just because the Seattle Kraken are playing a team that gives up a lot of goals doesn't mean that they are going to score goals. So I understand where Jeff is coming from for sure. So, and he talks about Anton Forsberg and how he's been able to really just take it to the Seattle Kraken. But of course, he is not with the Senators anymore. So that's good news for us, at least until we play LA. So Jeff is pretty worked up about this. I don't know that I've ever seen, at least in his writing, him be so worked up about something. The Kraken need to go into Canadian Tire Center and put a puck behind whoever is donning pads for the home team. The Senators have given up just 8 goals to the previous, the Senators just gave up 8 goals to the previously winless Buffalo Sabres on Wednesday night. So it is possible to actually score on Ottawa goalies. And again, I've alluded to that. Now, here's the thing. If you just gave up 8 goals, Ottawa's going to be really focused on that. And what's a great way when you've given up so many goals to maybe not give up so many goals that you can control, regardless of if you're the goaltender, if you're a defenseman, if you're a center or a winger, is to get into the body. And so again, for a team that already likes to get all up in the body when they play a physical style, usually led by Brady Tkachuk, who unfortunately for him, you never wish ill will on players, or certainly I try not to. I mean, I am human, and some players I'm like, all right, well, karma is a thing. But no, with Brady Tkachuk, he does play a really heavy sandpaper game. I don't like it because he's not on the Seattle Kraken, but it doesn't bother me like in the grand scheme of things. Quote unquote dirty player. I just, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation that I've been having a lot in women's basketball. But so this is an Ottawa team that kind of probably got reamed. Okay. Buffalo was winless. It's early in the season. I mean, Buffalo wasn't going to go defeated the whole season, but Buffalo gets their first win. You give up 8 goals. Yes, exactly, Striatic, you got it. And Wagner, we're gonna talk. We talked about Wagner on the episode. It is bonus content, but also will be a fixture that you can expect on Locked On Kraken. We actually have a lot of things that are changing for the Locked On Network. Some of them have been announced. Some the announcements are coming, but I think it's really going to give us as hosts opportunity to give you even more content and have that baked in. I know some of you are a part of our subtext community. We're probably going to keep subtext, but there's going to be other opportunities to engage more directly, which I think are going to be a better use case than subtext in some specific areas. But again, we'll talk about all of that. But PWHL content, women's hockey content, and knowing that we have the Olympics coming up, it's going to be a perfect time for you to stay locked on Kraken, not just for our regular episodes, but for some of our bonus content that we have coming down the pike, which will of course include PWHL Seattle. Okay, let's get back to Ottawa and the Seattle Kraken. Here is what we heard from Lambert and Schwartzy earlier today.
Ottawa is so strong in the circle. How does your team have to be prepared for that and the challenge in that?
Yeah, it's a great point. They're number 1 in the league in faceoff, 65%. So we've got to get help from our wingers. And again, it's a work in progress for us. Chris Taylor's doing his job to try and help our centers. We take faceoffs every day in practice, and we'll just have to continue. But at the end of the day, we're going to win some and we're going to lose some. And the bottom line is you have to know exactly what you're doing when you lose a faceoff.
Yeah, I think they got guys who take them on their strong sides. Like left-handed guys take it on the dot and right-handed guys take them on that dot. So they got the strong side there. But we just got to be aware of, our checking, and if we do lose the draw, know what we're doing. But got to help out our centerman a little bit. Probably a lot of tie-ups. We got to get in there and help out. So they've been good for quite a while, in the dot, and they're a good team. They skate well. They're D jump in the play, and it'll be a tough match for us. We're going to need to be good in a lot of areas.
are you liking this team's progress under Lane's system, and are there areas that you still want to see this team improve on and continue to work towards?
Yeah, it's been good. I think we're checking well. I think we're pretty detailed in the defensive zone and the neutral zone. There's always things you can get better at, but I think I like our belief in each other right now. I like our work ethic and our battle level, and guys are pretty dialed in with how we need to play and what we need to do to execute. So, we'll continue to get better on special teams and little plays offensively here and there, but I think we're pretty good start to the year, but we got to keep building there.
I like what we hear from Schwartzy there. He talked about some detail, some of the things you might have seen me. I was like, I'm not sure I agree there. Detailed defensively, I think they can improve upon. He does like the battle level or the compete level, right? The effort that we're seeing, which at times was flat out embarrassing last season. I don't like being Pollyanna. I think y'all who are everydayers know that about me. If you want someone or a podcast on the Seattle Kraken that's going to be like everything is rainbows and butterflies and smells of sweet cinnamon rolls, I will share those moments when they are appropriate, but I'm not going to oversell. I'm not going to overcommit to toxic positivity. I don't do that. That's not my, I don't know. Is it because I'm a New Yorker? Is it because I'm a Latina? I don't know. That's not my default. I try to, as the quote from Almost Famous goes, to quote and to assess this team warmly and accurately. So I'm not going to be like a butt, right? I'm not going to be a complete butt out here for any reason, just putting the team down. But last year it was really hard. It was really hard because the lack of focus was terrible. So I'm grateful that doesn't seem to be the issue this year en masse. It's still early. Yes, we've seen breakdowns, bad plays, HOPE passes, right? Like we hear from Tad O'Had. I'd never heard that. Tad is the first guy I heard use that, so I always credit him for that. But I love it. Blind passes, hope passes. Got to clean that stuff up. And the reason I like this game against Ottawa is because we get the chance to improve in those areas while also we should fully expect that this Ottawa team is going to hand it to us physically. And sometimes, it's a famous quote. I mean, again, Mike Tyson said it. I'm sure he wasn't the only one, but like everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? That's kind of how I feel about this game. The Seattle Kraken have a plan. I want us to execute the plan. How well can you execute the plan while getting punched in the face? Now, maybe literally, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fight or two in this game. We've seen how these Ottawa games have gone before. I would not be surprised. I hope it's not literally. You know how I feel if you're an everydayer or OGer about hockey fights. But I like the way this team is approaching. We're not going to get punked. And that too much of the time in the past 4 seasons was like, well, we're not big, we're not strong, we can maybe be faster than some guys, but not everyone, so I guess we just have to take it. No. But don't go so overboard that you lose the opportunity to improve on what this team needs to improve upon. So Philip Grubauer in net. I mean, there's so many things that I want to say. It's only a 30-minute podcast, so we have to move on. I feel like I'll have more to say once I see it. Y'all know I'm an eye test girly, so I like to see things before I make too much of an opinionated statement. A really good chance here for Grubauer. I like that we're getting Joey Dax some rest. He seemed a little I don't think I explicitly mentioned it, but he seemed like he could maybe use a game off based on how he played in Montreal. So I'm glad to see that we'll be seeing that. And Striatic, you get it. Ottawa's going to be desperate for a win after losing 3 straight, even if it's just a win in a hockey fight. There you go. You get me. And I think the Kraken have to be ready for that. Like if I know that, right? And as some people on the interwebs like to remind me, I've not played one single game in the National Hockey League. I've not played one single hockey game in any league at any level. That being said, if I know that Ottawa's coming for them physically, the Kraken need to know. I'm going to need them to know. And I'm very curious to see how this team starts the game. And that goes into my personal 3 keys to the game. I don't think I gave you the third essential for Jeff Baker. We'll go over that. And then I'll give you my 3 keys to the game as Ottawa will host the Seattle Kraken tonight. That will close out this episode of Locked On Kraken. But I also want to hear what you think about tonight's game. What are some of your keys to the game? If you're watching live, put them in the chat. If you watch this after the fact, put it in the chat and I'll talk about it on the next episode. As I mentioned at the top, today's episode of Locked On Kraken also brought to you by Gametime. Listen, y'all, I had to have so much impulse control not to hop on the Gametime tickets for the Kate Renata show at Climate Pledge Arena. I love Kate Renata. I keep having near misses and being able to go to Kate Renata shows. And so I'm going to have to find a way to get to Kate Renata. And the way that I'm doing that is by checking out Gametime, because whether you're talking about hockey season, football season, MLB tickets are here. You want to make sure you are getting a great price for a great event. And getting tickets can be a headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated, but none of that happens with Gametime. You can select your seats. You can check out the view from your seats before you select your seats. You are working with someone who you know is going to have that Gametime guarantee. You can even find right now NHL tickets for under $25. Not sure I'll find my Kate Renata tickets for that price, but a girl can dream. A girl can dream. And I also like that zone deals are the game changer. You pick your section and Gametime picks your seats and you save big time. That's just a few of the things that I like about Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets, whether it's for Kate Renata, Heim, or NHL. You can do that all with Gametime. Download the Gametime app like I have done, create your account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go! I should have, again, I left my phone somewhere else. I was cooking right before this. I will be having one of my favorite meals is a grilled chicken parm, chef's kiss. I am not Italian, but I am from New York, and that's just grilled chicken parm. I love it. Anyway, I can smell my grilled chicken parm almost ready. Cannot wait. Anyway, let's focus, Erica. All right, I'm focused. Three keys to the game. Keep Erica fed. No. So let's first end with Jeff Baker. He talks about the Senators. Jeff really got into this one. Will the real Senators please stand up or maybe wait another game? Okay, listen, I get it. That was a Slim Shady reference. I don't care what version of the Senators shows up. I get it. We're in the know your foe part of the 3 game essentials. I don't care what version of the Senators show up. What I am very excited to see is how Seattle can adapt to the version that shows up. So it's not a matter of if they're going to be physical. I'd be shocked if they don't play a physical game, like just want to bang you into the wall and then some type of game, especially as Striatic has already mentioned, they lose 3 straight. They gave up 8 to Buffalo. Okay, they're going to come out swinging. I'm excited and I'm eager to see how the Seattle Kraken will react and respond to that. He talks about some of the top players that we'll see from this lineup here. And so if we go to NHL.com, you have to look at what these top guys have been doing. Shane Pinto leads with 6 points as their centerman. Pinto has, of his 6 points, 5 of those are goals. Then you have Jake Sanderson, defenseman, with 4 assists. And that's something that we heard Lane Lambert address. They can move the puck, and that comes from the D-core as well. We know that the Seattle Kraken want to be able to push more from their defensive end, and that's just hello. Words are hard for me today. Crisp, sharp passes. Joey has done a really good job. Sometimes he, I think, has surprised some of his teammates with how quickly he can get a pass out and how sharply he can get a pass out. But that takes time. I've said it before. I like the exits. So exits and entries are such an interesting term in hockey because I feel like depending on what part of the ice you're kind of talking in redundant terms. But anyway, I like that we're able to exit the zone pretty crisp and sharply. We're not playing with our food in the neutral zone. I like that. I do think that we can execute even better in the offensive zone. I know people have commented, especially about maybe passing too much on the power play. But another thing that Jaden mentioned, and I talked about it on yesterday's episode, got to get bodies in front. So a net front presence, yes, you're thinking of the Mason Marchments, the Yanni Newmans, even Schwartz himself, not a domineering body type, but he's one of the most consistent net front presence players on the Kraken. But you're also thinking about screens. It was on the Newman goal. Newman was there, but I think it was Gaudreau that's cutting right in front of him. You just want to have multiple options for a lot of different reasons. One, you take the eyes away from the goaltender and the defense. Two, you move the defense out of position. They're like, do I go here? Do I go there? Three, you literally have more options. If Newman doesn't get that puck, can Gaudreau get a handle on it? Things like that. But it's so important because it gives options. I talked about how I thought Montreal did that when one time they go back door and the next time they go over the shoulder for Joey because he cheated a little. That's what you want, is to have enough versatility that you sometimes have the other teams cheat, or maybe they sag and you take up the space that is not being covered. So that's what I want to see from the Kraken. I want to see them be able to do that to other teams as opposed to having to react to other teams doing that to him. Okay, out of place. And there's an article up, I believe it's on the Seattle Kraken website. I don't know who wrote it, probably Jeff, maybe Allison, that I want to come to on this comment. Been waiting to see how this goalie rotation is executed this season. It was shocking to see Joey play the first 3 in a row, even if he is my favorite. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned this because I didn't say it because I was like, am I being ridiculous? It's only 3 games and I want Joey to get rest. But y'all know how I feel. I'm very protective of Joey Daccord. But then I'm like, on the one hand, it's like we've seen Joey play more than 3 games in a row, for sure. But my whole thing has been in the last handful of seasons, why do we need to see Joey play those games, so many games in a row? So the rotation, I think we might start to see it in earnest. It looks like we're getting Gruby. Let's see. When I look at the lines here, it is going to be McCann, Beniers, Eberle, Schwartz, Stevenson, Tolvanen, Marchment, Wright, Winterton, Cartier, Gaudreau, Newman. So it is just that center switch, at least the projected lines that Jeff Baker has in his lineup. Nothing looks different on the defensive end. Grubauer in net. I don't know who is out as the other goaltender because something that we have talked about on the show is that maybe more so for practices, but I think obviously for games as well. Do you want Joey Daccord backing up? Do you need Joey Daccord backing up on a game where you want him to get some rest? Or, can we get Murray in there? I think it's okay to have Murray there and maybe give Joey Dax a full out rest, but I guess we'll see what happens. But my 3 keys to the game, and oops, you know what? I forgot the graphics. So we're just going to go off the dome. The first, and I think you know where we're going with this, is be ready for the physicality. Okay. I want us to be prepared. It's going to happen. They're going to come out guns blazing. That's just how Ottawa plays. Be ready for kind of maybe, I think the penalties in the Montreal game were not the same kind of penalties that we're going to see early tonight. So how does this team keep its composure, which is my second key to the game? You've got to keep your composure, okay? You got to be ready for the physicality, but also stay within your game. That's another way of saying it. But overall, I want them to keep a level head, keep your composure. And then for me, you have to also, and this maybe goes to the physical game, but when I talk about physicality, I'm talking about going body to body, 50-50 pucks, pushing guys into the boards, things of that nature. We saw that, who was it? Oh, McCann's goal the other night. Who were they playing? Oh, Vegas, right? And so I forget who was in net for Vegas, but he's pushing McCann, and McCann scores that goal, the game winner, right, in overtime. And he's just like, oh, it was Aiden Hill, right? He gets in his face. Like, yeah, take the contact, but be where you're supposed to be. Don't be pushed around. Do what you need to do. And so whether you want to call it net front presence, whether you want to call it on the forecheck, I want to see this team be aggressive. So those are my keys to the game. You got to be ready for the physicality. You have to keep your composure knowing that it's going to be physical, but then you have to find ways to put your stank on the game. And a great way to do that is by having physical play, physical presence, and standing your ground, so to speak. Stand your ground, love it in sports, maybe not so much in the state of Florida, but either way, that's a podcast for somewhere else. All right, that should get you ready for tonight. Live show. Thank you so much for joining me. Striatic in the comments. Out of Place 7 was here. Thank y'all so much. And we're going to do this again. I'll have in the coming weeks more of a schedule. Definitely want to have some live shows around the bioluminescence, Abyss Awakens, Third Jersey vibes, mostly because I feel like it's just going to give me an excuse to like find some glow sticks and just lean totally into it. Two things that bring me so much joy, just in case you wanted to know this about me: glow sticks and bubbles. Under any circumstances, I feel like they're always appropriate for me. Like, I'm not going to say no. Do I want something that glows in the dark? Absolutely, I do. Do I want to blow some bubbles? Have some fun with some bubbles? You bet you I do. You bet. 100%. So look for that. We have our first one coming up on November 1. I talked about that a little bit on yesterday's episode. You know what comes next. Be kind to yourself. Bubbles, glow sticks, whatever the case is, chicken parm sandwiches, grilled, chicken parm sandwiches, whatever it is, do something special for you today. And hopefully you can extend that love and patience and appreciation to others. All right, it's a big ticket. I know Ava's going to the Mariners game today. I'm so excited for her. We've got Kraken hockey. We've got the M's game tonight. It's going to be a good time for Seattle. I'm feeling good about it, and I hope you are too. All right, let's hold fast. We stay true, and loud and proud we say, let's go Kraken. And heck yes, listen, Striatic, not me getting ready to go to Party City right now on the immediate. Like, I was already thinking about a bubble machine and why. I'm an adult. Why do I not have one? And now you've given me an excuse and I can expense it. Let's go. Who says no? Bubbles for the win. That's it right there. Bubbles for the win. Let's see when I can get the bubble machine out. Until next episode. Peace out, everybody. Enjoy the game.